Hey, Katie, welcome to the Profit and Grit Show. How are you doing today?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thanks. I'm so excited to talk with you. I'm appreciative. Sarah Gerardo, I believe I'm saying that correctly,
Yeah.
connected us. And I'm always, it's so fun when a guest is willing to trust me and introduce me to someone new.
It is scary for sure. So yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. I want to hear what you do professionally, and then I want to hear a little tidbit about you personally.
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? No, just kidding. So I have worked in the heating and air industry in northern Utah for about 25 years now. It was not my life's ambition. I don't know that anybody's life ambition is to work in heating and air, but I think it should be. I'd like to change that story a little bit instead of this is what happened to me. It's what I chose to do and how I chose to provide for my family. Because the best lesson I learned in my life was be prepared to take care of your kids. And I just wasn't. I became a single mom at a young age and
Wow.
was going to college. I wanted to be a vocal performance major. So I loved singing, but no money in music unless you're the best, but you're not. But I was working as a telemarketer at a heating and air company and then putting myself back through school so I could do medical coding from home. And so I was selling furnace tune-ups. And I'm like, what the heck is a furnace tune-up? And my boss said to me, well, do you take your car to be tuned up? And I'm like, no. He's like, well, what about an oil change? I'm like, yeah, everybody is. So so like finally understanding like different verbiage to relate to customers as I'm selling a furnace tune-up over the phone. I'm like, no, it's like an oil change. Everybody should do it, and it's how your car lasts longer. So I went after I finished school, my boss said, hey, you are really smart. We'd love to offer you a full-time position dispatching. So I kind of went from telemarketing to dispatching to lead generator, marketing director, service manager, and then out into the field. To the best of my knowledge, I was the first female in Utah that did the in-home estimates like 20 years ago
Wow.
in northern Utah. So like when I started, I had the roller that rolled on the outside of the house to measure square footage. I keep it and it's in my car because it's kind of nostalgic. I used to have it in my garage, but it's like these days, if my laser is missing some batteries, I'm like, sorry, I can't measure your house. And it's almost funny because like back in the day, we're rolling this roller on the outside to measure square footage. So
That is funny.
yeah, it's been awesome. So it's been this, I worked in every single department until I opened my own company. So
So, okay, I got so many questions for you. I want to kind of go into the first section. I'd like to start kind of rock bottom, if you will.
yeah.
Like, at what point did you kind of go like, wow, I've hit this setback or I've hit this struggle and I'm not sure I can go on. What is there a defining moment like that for you?
Lots of them, really. I mean, there's so much about owning a business and starting a business that there is no book or podcast or anything that anybody can prepare you for what you're going to go through every single day.
Yeah.
I think in year one, everything that happened in year one was the first time that it had happened. And so it's like, oh my gosh, we got a flat tire. What do we do? Oh my gosh, we fell through a ceiling. What do we do? Oh my gosh, we dinged somebody's washing machine. What do we do? And it's like the first time that everything happens, it's not always great. So that first year will really make or break somebody. You've got to have some grit, if you will, just to get through the day to day because you're not prepared for every single thing that happens because it's the first time that it happens. So,
But there's there anything where you kind of like, was there ever like a moment where you're like, man, I'm not sure this is going to work, or I'm not sure. Like, I'd love to know if there's just kind of digging a little deeper, if there's something that ever hit you where you kind of question yourself.
every day. Being the first female in Utah to do the
Yeah.
in-home estimates. I mean, if we go back in time to when I started doing presentations, cell phones had just become a thing and I had coordinates books. And the first time that I heard a customer say, honey, it's a woman on the phone, like I could still hear them. Like, oh my gosh, like a panic attack of what do I do? I'm still scheduled to go out to their house. I don't know what to do.
Right.
And so at first, like that was painful. And I'm like, I am in the wrong field. I'm doing this wrong. But then I realized, you know what? I know that I'm the best person that they could have at their home to educate them. But that came with a couple of years of like building my confidence and educating myself. So I decided, like, from that first phone call of, honey, it's a woman, to change that to I spent my presentation. So I spend about 5 minutes and when I first get to somebody's house, when I'm doing sales calls, really just educating the customer, but mostly letting them know I know what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
I probably have more knowledge than anybody else they're going to have there. I don't want them to remember that it was a woman that came to their home, but I want them to remember that, man, that person gave us the most information and was the most knowledgeable. So about the time I built some confidence, I changed it and showed up to the door and be like, and I'm still a girl. The first time I did that, the lady was so embarrassed. She's like, "Oh my gosh, you could hear me." I'm like, yeah, I was on the phone." And but I could sometimes I would say things like, "If you'd like, I we have men that I work with," and they're like, "No, no." Um, but that is painful and that takes a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
the easiest thing to do would be like, put me back in the shop. I'll keep answering phones because it still happens today. Like it's crazy. I'm
Really?
like, you realized you called a woman-owned and operated heating and air company, like. uh, I even had I will leave that yesterday. I'm like, it's interesting. But that the first phone call I think was probably where I could actually hear somebody say the words that sometimes I knew they were thinking.
Yeah.
Uh, Honey, it's a woman. Yep,
Wow.
it's a woman.
Based on my research, I think you also had some challenges, and I don't think this was gender related, but you had some challenges from distributors in terms of credit.
Oh yeah.
Can you
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
us
yeah.
through that? Because that's kind of a bottom moment too, because you think like, hey, I'm going to have access to these relationships, and then you kind of hit a snag.
Yeah, for sure. Oh man, there's been lots of like this is deep. So
Yeah.
I had sold a particular line the majority of my career, and so I had just assumed that I would have access or credit. I, and I just didn't know how any of it worked. But honestly, when I was going to start this company, there was no real plan to start. I had just been through, and I haven't talked about this yet. It was a partnership that just failed.
Wow.
And I was just at home crying, basically. Like, Dave Ramsey says, the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. Now, I don't know that that's true, but some really big lessons from that. But I was just at home in tears, didn't know what to do. And the only thing I know how to do is heating and air conditioning. I didn't have any money set aside. I didn't have a vehicle. I didn't have a shop. I owned a truck. I sold it to myself basically and wrapped it and bought a trailer because that was the least expensive way to get one vehicle out on the road. But I had hoped that because I've been selling particular brands for 20 years that maybe I wouldn't have such a tough time
Sure.
signing up with distributors. There was Johnstone was the one that really stepped up and said, you know what, actually we know what this girl can do. Not only did they give me a credit limit, but they gave me enough breathing room that um, that was, I have paid them back tenfold. I think we're their fastest growing company in Utah for sure. And our credit limit is crazy, crazy high. But I think they're very thankful that they bet on this horse, so to speak. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
the other
interesting.
distributors that weren't so like willing to help um have been knocking at the door like, what can we do, do you want this travel voucher, do you want this? I'm like, where were you 2 years ago? Now I'm like locked in, and it's been a little crazy for sure. So that was tough, and it was stuff I just couldn't anticipate.
Yeah. That's always, you know, it's interesting to me because as someone that's in finance, when the bean counters have a little bit too much say in decision making, because it's like you have credibility and authority with the product line, and someone should have authority within that organization to be able to evaluate that as part of you getting approved. And
Yeah,
it's interesting. It seems like they just had their, typical kind of big company. I had to say, I don't know how big they are, but because I don't know the companies, but it sounds like they were
I'll
just
tell you
following
offline,
yeah,
but it's the largest one.
they were just following process basically, and
Yeah.
that's unfortunate because shame on them. They lost a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So in my career, I spent 18 years of my career as a comfort consultant or a comfort advisor, and I had a wildly successful career. When you talk about being able to support a family or pay for my kids' life, heating and air was a great way to do it. I actually, as I was working in the day to day as the dispatcher and then lead generator and marketing director for a very, very small company at the time. They're gigantic now, but at the time they only had 4 trucks. So during the day, I was like answering the phones, and then at night, I was selling Mary Kay. I don't even wear makeup. But The first time my boss sent me out with an indoor air quality monitor to place, if this will tell you how old I am and how long I've been doing it. Placed an air monitor, went out and sold a furnace, and I was like, I just made as much as I make selling 300 lipsticks. I think
Wow.
I'm going to sell furnaces. Like, I don't want to sell, I don't even like lipstick. So,
Right, right.
anyway, but they had taught me some great sales. There was some great sales training. And I believe that like sales is something it can be taught, but if you learn how to sell, then it will translate in whatever you're selling. So, I had a wildly successful career in heating and air as a salesperson.
Yeah.
In 20, if it's okay, I'll roll into this if that's
Well,
okay.
that's where I kind of want to go with this. You're kind of setting it up for me. I love talking. I mean, I feel like we could probably spend another hour talking about rock bottom because there's so many shades
So
in
many.
there. I mean, I feel like I got to be honest. I'm fighting with myself right now because I even want to talk about the partnership that didn't work out. But
No, don't do it.
that'll be part. Okay, noted.
Yeah.
That'll be a part two. I think you
Yeah.
will in part two.
Yes, I think so.
Let's talk about the turning point though, because I want to get
Okay.
into like when did you start to hit? I mean, 5 million in your first year, and now you're in
Hmm.
year two, and I
Yeah.
think you're on pace to sounds like double again, which is pretty
Yep.
crazy. At what point do you go, oh my gosh, I've
I
got
can
something real here. This is awesome. Like,
I
is
can
that
tell
day
you
one?
no, I can tell you exactly when that happened. No, definitely not. So imagine I'm in my garage, right? I was short $800 to get workers' comp, and my husband, who owned a little cabinetry company, was like, "Hey, I am gonna go get a W-2 job so I can pay our bills because I know what you can do and it's something special. So you go build a company. I'm gonna get a regular job, pay our house payment." I'm like, "Okay." But I'm short $800 to get workers' comp. And he's like, I'll borrow it from the neighbors. And I'm like, what? I actually had $13,000 to my name, and truepros.com was somebody was selling the domain for $15,000. I sent the guy an email and said, I only have $13,000. He's like, sold. I'm like, man, I wish I would have told him I only had 12.
Yeah,
Because then I would,
they buff those up big time. Yeah, who
yeah.
knows
So
though? Yeah.
I bought truepros.com. But anyway, that whole first year was, like I talked about, was like rock bottom all the time, but just not understanding what it was. Fast forward 10 months later, and Jim Henshaw calls me, and he's the vice president, I think, of Service Nation. And I just had signed up on this little roundtable part, and I didn't know what roundtable was. I just knew I could get some rebates if I signed up. And so he called me and said, hey, Katie, did you know you'd been nominated as Woman of the Year? And I'm like,
Wow.
no. And he's like, well, are you planning on coming to our conference? A, I've never been to a conference. B, I don't know what the conference is. And C, I think I've won because the president's calling me and saying that I've been nominated and am I coming, and that he'll pay for it if we'll pay for you to come. And I'm thinking in my mind, I must have won. I did not win, and I wasn't even on their radar, not even close. However, something so important happened on this trip. While I'm down there, I was sitting in this class, and I didn't have any right to miss a few days of work. Like, we're still in not even year one, and I've taken now a few days off to go hopefully win an award that I wasn't even on the radar for. I had been nominated, but didn't win. But that is okay. I'm sitting in this class, and this guy next to me, he's like jotting down some notes, and he's like, this year I'm going to do it. And I'm like, what are you going to do? And he says, I'm going to hit 5 million this year. And I'm like, well, how long have you been in business? And he's like, this will be my 20th year. I started shaking, and I walked out into the hallway and called my husband, and I said, honey, I think what we're doing is something special. He has nothing to do with the industry. He's a carpenter, pays the bills. But he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, this guy I'm sitting next to has been doing this for 20 years, and he's
Yeah.
hoping to get to where we've already gone past. I think we ended that first year at like 5.6, but I had no idea that what we were doing was something special, because I think because I didn't have blinders or
Yeah.
a goal, it just allowed me to go. But that also was my defining moment of, oh my gosh, we're doing something special. It also allowed me time to reflect on all of the negativity. Like, I think I lost some very important people along the way. Anybody that was right next to me, all they were hearing was, oh my gosh, the transmission just blew up. What do we do? We don't have enough money for another van. What do we do? Where do we get another? Everything was just a crisis. And now understanding the volume, we had 5 years of growth in less than a year. And I wish I would have given myself grace or space around the people that were closest to me, because I think I could have kept some of them. So, like after this meeting, after being down at Service Nation, there were 5 million great things that happened that year. But I let the things though that happen once a week really dictate our my attitude of, oh my gosh, it's so hard. So we added a bell at the office and we ring the bell every time something great happens. And it's a loud bell. The girls are like, oh my gosh, here she goes again. Um, but we've also put a scrapbook by the front door where we write down the good things that happen every week so that we have this scrapbook of the great things that happen instead of letting the one bad thing like tank us.
Yeah.
We've got 30 other things that were like, we had this great hire. We finally figured out this guy's service call. We built a service department. So, really reflecting on the great things. Yeah.
Katie, I don't want to gloss over that because that is just so huge in business. Like we are so conditioned, and I know I've built and sold two businesses, so I've been guilty of this myself. We're always getting the high of the next like big thing that's going to happen. Like we're looking for that, and everything in that journey all the bad stuff that happens tends to get magnified. And then even when we hit that big thing, we're like, okay, the next big thing. And so we're never really like, and I'm talking for myself, but I've seen a lot of business owners do this too. We never really acknowledge the all those little steps that get us to the big thing. So that's huge that you have the awareness in 2 years of business. You already have the awareness to really bring that out among your team and the company because it's huge. I mean, that's a big thing that you acknowledge those points. I bet you it helps your culture a lot.
Well, we have like part of our logo is this hex pattern. We think we're like so it's True Pros, but there's a hex pattern behind it, and it's kind of our and our mission statement talks about that we're a beehive or a hive to join our hive, and it's really all about teamwork. My husband, the carpenter, has built these wooden hex things that go on the wall, and it doesn't matter if you work for us for one work with me. I never say anybody works for me. If you work with me for one day, you're part of that pattern because we wouldn't be anywhere without every single person that's been there. And so your name gets to go up on the board no matter what. And you're part of that beehive and part of the collaboration no matter what, good, bad, ugly. But we wouldn't be here without everything that has happened.
Right.
So we have a great culture. We really
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to ask though, like to get, I think you said 5.6 million in your first year. Well, north of 5 million. Is that because you're such a great salesperson? Like I know there's people maybe out in the audience going, "Well, yeah, she used to be a salesperson. Of course they got 5 million. That's what drove all that." Is that what drove all that or how did you do that?
Honestly, I think that there is a lot to that. I knew everything about sales and knew everything about installation. So I took this class right out the gate called Chief of Operations or Accountability or something. And in the class was like, okay, you want 60% install, 30% service, and 10% maintenance. Frankly didn't know anything about service. I knew everything about memberships and sales and installation. So that's what I built we didn't even have a service department until
Wow.
after the first year because all I knew how to do was sales and install. I'm like, if I could figure out how to drive the work and drive the leads, we didn't have a database. Just had to figure out how to get the leads to come in and put me in front of a customer. Or I had a really great salesperson. And then I've now trained another one. Will sell the work. So I think not knowing or just not doing what the industry said we had to do. You need service techs, which you do. Oh my gosh. Like now you're asking if you ask like how are we able to double? It's well, now we've got a service department and they generate work and leads and it's crazy.
Wow.
The idea was we'd install the systems and then if there was a warranty, our installers would go back. So they were able to help. But I really just knew everything about this one part. And it's like there's some questions in my mind of like when do you allow yourself to hire a manager and get some help or wave the white flag? Probably should have done it much earlier, but now I've got a general manager that is like the yin to my yang. He used to be a service manager. He came in and he's like, "Well, where's the service techs?" And I'm like, "That's a great question. Where are they? You should get them because I don't know."
You're hired.
Yeah, exactly. We had 6 install crews and 6 helpers, no service techs, just a couple maintenance techs. And now we've got 6 service techs. And so that's just been in the past like 6 months. So that's just been, so that has been incredible. So yes, when you say, how did I grow to 5 million? Blinders. I only knew everything about sales and installation. So
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
So, hey, I want to switch gears. I want to talk about good advice, bad advice in the industry. What's some of the best advice you received, and then what's some of the worst advice you've received in the industry?
I would honestly, because I thought I was going to fail because I didn't have a service department and I kept like knocking on my neighbors' doors. Hey, how do I build a service price book or how do I do this? And the neighbors really aren't super wanting, for whatever reason, to help you. But joining this Service Nation group after I went down to that meeting, I was like, I want to, they have groups of owners that are at your same revenue. They call them their advisory boards. It was super helpful for me. So I'm not rallying for anybody. I'm just saying at the place I was in, I needed so much advice and so much training and knowledge that I didn't have accessible, or I didn't have anybody to ask that would, I felt like was giving me honest information. I felt like people were not giving me honest information. So the best information is to join a group and they have no reason to lie to you. Worst information was reading a book about how to build my company because all of a sudden I was sure I was going to fail because I was missing this whole part. And it's not because I didn't want to have that part, it's because I didn't know how to build that part.
Yeah. I think you've also got some advice around like high pressure sales tactics. And it sounds like that's exact opposite of what you do. You're very information based, try to
Yeah.
educate the buyer. Take me through like, not necessarily who gave you that advice, but what kind of advice did you get and how did you deal with like, did you try that path or were you like rejected immediately?
It's hard to not sign up for the shiny penny,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I join all these Facebook groups and there appears to be this big followings and big groups, and just sign up and pay $30,000 and your life is going to be amazing and we're going to do everything for you, is really hard to know what's right for Tyler and his company or Katie and my company. I would say you know yourself the very best. I know as a salesperson, I was never the high pressure, do it today. Like, I want you to want to buy from me. I want you, if you want to get your estimates, I want you to, because I don't ever want you to wonder if you got the best deal or the best information. I want you to do your research and feel like, nope, that's where I want to buy from. So that's the sales approach that I take. There's some other people that are like, no, get it in, get it done. And that works for them. They're clearly very successful, but it is not how I've built, and not the information that I teach my people.
Yeah.
And I very clearly set up different departments. Like our service techs only do service, our maintenance only do maintenance, sales only do sales. And some people completely disagree with that. And that is okay. I'm just doing it different.
Yeah, what works for you? I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that's an important thing too. I think we get so stuck into this is the way it has to be done, and we know,
Yes.
there's so many things on the internet that are all sound bites, and they lose context. Like you don't really know the whole story to that sound
Yes.
bite that you're hearing.
Yes.
So it's interesting. I love that you say you do it your way and it's working. I mean, I think that's the other obvious important part.
Well, I think who doesn't want to think I could spend my life savings and all my problems will be fixed?
Right?
Because that is super enticing.
It is.
I didn't have any money to invest. I didn't have any options. One of the best things that happened to me was trying to apply for an SBA loan. I had never done projections. I had never had to, so to speak. So I knew everything about sales and installation. Now all of a sudden I need to understand my P&L and my numbers. And so somebody had suggested I apply for an SBA loan. Well, I went to the school, local school, and they had a teacher there that helped me apply. But we applied over and over again for months, and the bank kept declining it, saying our projections were too good.
Mm,
And by about the fourth month, where we had doubled the projections each month, they were like, okay, we're going to loan you. And it was the littlest amount. It's so funny now. And they make you get whatever you've applied for. So
yeah.
this is like, if I could tell anybody anything, if you're going to apply for a loan, apply for working capital. When they granted me this money, they're like, okay, we want you to go buy the van and the computer, the ladder racks. And I'm like, at that point, I had 5 vans, 10 computers. I'm like, what? They're like, well, that's what you applied for day one. I'm like, oh, crap. So I wish that somebody would have explained that part to me.
Yeah, it is kind of funny though. In fairness, I do projections. I see projections, and it's so common. You see these projections. Like, in fact, yesterday I had a client, it was going to be a $60 million business in 3 years, and it's like someone had prepared a projection for him. I'm like, dude, this isn't happening. Like, this is ridiculous. But you see them all the time. But the funny thing about you is yours were like real. Like you really. I mean, most businesses are $5 million in their first year, especially in the HVAC space. So it's just kind of funny that you did have probably some lofty projections, but you could back them up.
Yes, well, I remember sitting across from the banker. The first time when I went to go get a bank account, I had two banks just decline me from getting a bank account. I'm like, what do you mean I can't open an account? This is weird. And they're like, so two banks turned me down to even get
Wow.
a bank account. I'm like, I have an EIN. I've got like my social, my driver's license, my contractor's license. So finally, the bank that gives me a bank account, no credit, just a bank account, they're the ones I'm going to apply through the SBA. And I remember the guy leaned back in his chair and he's like, so what's your plan? You're going to just put your phone number on the side of a van and drive around? And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, and he's like, well, how are you going to get this work? And I'm like, that's a great question. Um, like, do you want the answers to that? Social media, Google, networking, BNI, the Chamber of Commerce, like all of those things were where I was able to generate work and drive work from.
Yeah. One thing I want to that you said that was just so brilliant. If you can get a credit line, get the credit line, even if you're not going to use it. And even if it's like some pathetic amount like 10 or
Hmm.
20,000, because what
Yeah.
happens is most banks is they give you a little fake amount originally and then you keep working them and before you know it it's two, $300,000.
Yep.
You just kind of have to play the game.
Yeah. Well, last year, because I've got a gentleman that who I've been meeting with for several years, just once a week for an hour. He used to own a trucking company, retired, and he wanted to kind of give back. He was my tennis partner's dad, and the day I opened, she's like, "My dad would love to just coach or give back," and I'm like, "Well, what am I going to talk to him about?" And I'm so thankful because he has guided me through some really tricky stuff. But he told me, go get a line of credit. Well, last year the bank wouldn't give me a line of credit. I'm like, what do you mean? Like I've had over, at that point, I'd had over two or 300,000 in the bank every day, never dropped below. I'm like, I want to get a $50,000 line of credit. And they said no, that I hadn't been in business long enough. And I'm like, I don't actually think I'll need it. It's just in case. And then the coach at the school said, go to a different bank. And I told my banker, and she's like, wait, we can do it. And I'm like, so we got it. We never used it. It just sits there. But
Yeah.
that was so, yes, to your point, get a credit line.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing before we move on to the next topic, as I'm listening to you, one thing you've done just so great is it sounds like you've put really strong people around you that you trust, and I think we shouldn't gloss over that as being part of good advice, bad advice. Is that you put really solid people that sound like they give you good advice, and you have a high level of trust. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, but I'm a salesperson and I love everybody. And so that has been tricky too, like finding out who's got my best
Yeah.
interest at
Yeah.
heart. But weeding those people out because there have been some amazing advocates for true pros and women in the industry. I was on this HVAC forum yesterday, and literally yesterday, this person had posted, I can't believe they let women in the industry. What do you guys think about it? And it just reminded me of how special True Pros is. Not only do we have female technicians and female installers, we have men and women in leadership, but I didn't really think about it until like I'm reading this gentleman's post yesterday and how hurtful that was. We're doing something special and we're doing it very visibly. So we have some wonderful advocates and then we have some very big haters.
Yeah.
I remember getting a 1-star Google review that just said gross. And I'm like, gross what? It wasn't a customer, so they eventually removed it. But I'm like, gross what? Pants, driving, what? Just some weird hate sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm sure everybody deals with it just on different levels. So
Yeah.
figuring out who's actually a supporter of True Pros and wants to see us grow and thrive, and then who's not.
Yeah, it's part of the challenge. Hey, so I want to talk about this next topic. I kind of call it the blueprint, the step-by-step blueprint. So
Okay.
I know you've adopted tools like ServiceTitan being one.
Mhm.
What are some of the tools that you've adopted, and how did you manage those around your team and implementing into your company, and what impact did they have on your operations?
So that's a big one because with ServiceTitan, I knew I worked at a company where we went through 3 software implementations and I had to help with each one and it was so painful. So in my mind, I was like, I want to start wherever I know I'm going to end. So I know that ServiceTitan is where everybody wants to end. So I
Right.
thought I'll just start there. And onboarding was so frustrating, but I'm so thankful the way that they did it. So if I could give some advice, it would
Yeah.
be as an owner or an operator, you do the onboarding yourself, even if you have people. Every week, they would give me an assignment. Okay, we want you to make a code for these 5,000 things in your price book. Okay, next week, I want you to give these 5,000 things a name. okay, the next week I want you to give images to these 5,000 things you have. And it was like the most redundant, frustrating thing. But guess what? At the end, I had a price book that I built
Yeah.
because the way they made me do it, and it was annoying as crap. But at the end, I'm like, I have this beautiful price book that I knew the codes and the names, and the pictures were ones that I put in there. Had they said at the end, you're going to have this amazing product, I probably wouldn't have kicked and screamed so much. But and it was like 3 months of onboarding, but I knew every single
Yeah.
part. And instead of having a team do it, now I know how to do all of it. So, ServiceTitan has been key for us. So, and we tried some of the pro products. Some of them work, some of them haven't. So, yeah.
Yeah. What other tools have you guys implemented that have had big impact to your operations?
Service Nation.
Service.
My
Yeah.
my business coach, I'll just call him that, who's just been more than anything a sounding board for. I've never had to write somebody up before or hold someone
Mm.
accountable, and every rule that we have is now related to something that's happened.
Are you
And
comfortable telling us his name? You're welcome to say it on the
oh
show if
yeah,
you're
yeah,
comfortable.
no,
Yeah.
Dan Powell, he's
Dan
been,
Pal. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I give him so many props,
That's awesome.
because he's done it in a way that has been more like, well, what you're saying doesn't really sound right. And then he'd mail me books like The 1 Minute Manager. Like, we're growing so fast. He's like, so I want you to read these 10 pages or read this book and figure out like how to empower people, but also hold them accountable. Because like I say, I'm a salesperson. I want everybody to love me and I love everybody. I'm not allowed to do the hiring anymore because I want to hire everybody.
Yeah. It's hard. As a salesperson,
I
it's
love
hard.
everybody.
Yeah, it's hard because you're so
Yeah.
good with people. And usually, I say kudos to you though, because usually what I've found with salespeople is they are good with numbers as it relates to commission or sales, but
Mhm.
they're not generally the best when it comes to like more of like the profit and loss and
Yeah.
understanding good business decisions because
Yeah.
they're always thinking like, hey, I can close this next sale. I'm going to get this next deal, which
Yeah.
is great. You need that mindset. But
Yeah.
it seems like you've been able to kind of balance that in your own personality, or at least get people around you that can help you keep
Yeah.
that all in line.
If I can give some mad props to Christy Owens, Ishmael Valdez has actually been super helpful for me too. So let me go back to Christy. She and I played tennis together. I was a tennis captain, and I had posted on our little group me, "Hey, I'm going to retire because I'm going to open a company." And she sent me a message. She's like, "Do you know how to use QuickBooks?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I've got QuickBooks." And she's like, "So we started doing these Zoom calls every Sunday for hours on end." Because I told her I have QuickBooks and a bank account and it does this. And she's like, no, it doesn't do this. Because she'd asked me, have you reconciled? And I'm like, I don't know what that means. I said, my bank account just feeds to QuickBooks. And she at that point was like, okay, we're gonna have to build. I want you to understand buckets and I want you to understand your chart of accounts. And those words had never even been said to me
Sure.
before. And so I was taking a class at Chief of Operations where they're like above the line, below the line. I'm like, what line? Like, what are you talking about? And so like Christy really put everything in perspective. And I had seen owners like take cash out of the bank and give like $20 bonuses. And she's like, no, no, you cannot do that. Like everything that we did was 100%
Above
in
the
line
line,
with the law. Yeah, exactly. She's like, no, no, you have to do that's on taxes. You have to
above
account
board,
for
actually.
income. Yes.
Yeah.
One time we were missing $1.07. There was a charge for $1.07, and I'll never forget because we found it. It said it was for an aero fastener, so like our aero freshener. So we're thinking somebody bought a car freshener at the gas station. $1.07. And a month we figured it out. It was air for the tire.
That's hilarious. What
Yeah,
about
but
Ishmael? You had
she was able
mentioned
to do it.
Ishmael.
Yeah, so recently, and I've never met him, which is so crazy. So I'm just this little company, woman owned, whatever. But I've done a couple podcasts and I signed up right away. I think the thermostats are brilliant, the Nuve thermostats. If I know anything about marketing, which is not a lot, but what I do know is that in my own home, I don't ever go to my furnace room, but I pass by my thermostat every day. I think what he's done is brilliant by putting your logo on there. You could send messages. So I signed up for those thermostats right out the gate. But he and I connected just over the thermostats. And he's like, I would love to have a couple phone calls with you. And he has not asked me for a penny. We set up like 3 or 4 meetings where we had private one-on-ones. And now I'm part of his like 23 the 23 group where he's going to take 23 companies to 20 million, some ridiculous, but you know what? He mentors the 23 companies as if he is running each one. He's like,
Wow.
at what point do you get a manager? At what point do you get a CFO? Like, when do you have a bookkeeper or when do
Right.
you go to a CFO? And
Wow.
these are all questions like new owners just don't
Yeah.
know. So,
Yeah.
he's been fantastic.
That is awesome. Once again, I mean, you put good people around you that help you grow. That's great. And then last area I want to get into before we wrap up here. I have two more things.
Sure.
I want to talk about looking ahead. So what's in both personally and professionally? Like where do you
Yeah.
see this going? I'd say next year and then maybe next 5 years. What are your goals?
I would love to add different verticals, right? Like you'd asked me about the name. Is it True Pros Heating and Air? No, it's just True Pros. Because I wasn't sure. I was like, it might just be True Pros fingernails, True Pros pickleball, True Pros tennis. We're going to be the true professionals of whatever we're doing. So heating and air is what I'm really good at. So that's what we focused on. But now we've added plumbing, just as we're not big. We have our plumbing license. We can replace a water heater. But adding the other verticals as they naturally grow,
Sure.
I want to stay really good at what we're doing, but I want to be very visible in being a woman owned and operated heating and air company and opening up that door for others. I wanted to touch on this because this was so important in my career. In 2015, Lennox started this Ultimate Comfort Advisor contest, and there were
Yeah.
four winners from the United States of four salespeople that had sold the most equipment or the most high efficient equipment in the United States. And in year one, there was probably I want to say 500 to 700 in the Western Conference. And on the first several pages, there were no women except for me. In year one, I won for the Western Conference. And
Wow.
I was competing against like California, Texas, Oregon. It was crazy. So at that time, the awards were a man's class ring, a smoker, and a Home Depot gift card or something. And when we got there for the award ceremony, to Lennox's credit, they were like, and we weren't anticipating this, but we went ahead and got her a Borlino buffalo bag. And I'm like, what the is a Borlino? So I'm Googling Borlino buffalo bag, and it's like a leather satchel. Like they were trying, right? They were not. But in year two, there were three other women on that first page in our Western
That's
Conference.
awesome.
So what
Y-
that told me is that I
Yeah.
think that I had shown other owners that it was okay to hire a female.
Katie, it could have been way worse though. It could have been 300 lipsticks.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Could have been. And I would have been like, and I'm going to sell these for $10 each and make
Look at that
$3,000.
salesperson, man. You're already cranking in. There's your True Pros, True Pros lipstick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Um,
funny.
yeah, but
So
I
one,
won.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. I won years one, two, and three. And
Wow,
then
that is
that's when I
amazing.
decided I should go start my own company, kind of. Like I was
Yeah,
like,
makes sense.
I'm getting too old to crawl under houses, so I need to do it for like train some other people to do it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you feel is your responsibility? And I'm not sure if that's the right word, but your responsibility in terms of helping females get into this industry, be respected in this industry, have some type of avenue to enter and be um, just be taken seriously from the get-go. Like where do you feel you fit in that, if at
That
all?
it's such a great question because that the first and only conference that I've been to, that Service Nation, I was so excited because they had this group that was going to be all women there. And I had no idea that this even existed and that there was even other women in the industry. So connecting and finding the other women in the industry, but also opening the door. So we're about 40% female at my office,
Wow.
which nationwide it's 2%.
Wow.
And so just really being visible and doing it well. We make mistakes every day.
Sure.
But I really want to have a team around me that allows me to continue speaking in public forums, doing the podcast. So when you asked, I was like, yes, sign me up because I think it's important that people hear the story. And like if it's something that they're interested in, oh my gosh, please do it. Because if I wouldn't have tried, I would have never known. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm thankful for the people that really did support me, like my husband and a couple of my competitors that were like, we could offer you a job, but honestly, you did such a great job. I think you should go do this again.
That's
So,
so cool. Wow, that's good stuff. Okay, I love that. Last thing I want to talk with you about.
So sorry, I had so much to say.
No, that's all good. It's great stuff.
Uh,
Last thing I want to finish up on here is
Okay.
just like, what's your mantra? Like, what do you have a line? And I think we've already kind of touched on it, but I'd love to end on this. What's your big mantra?
Ring the dang bell.
I love it. I love
Ring
it.
the bell.
Yeah,
If you don't celebrate the wins, all of the failures will eat you alive, and they did.
it's
Um,
true.
and for those that I lost along the way, I'm very sad. So
Yeah, yeah, it happens. I
yeah,
mean, the cool thing is your journey right now, the trajectory is like crazy up. Don't normally get that out the gate for most
no,
businesses, so it's
yeah,
cool that you're on such a great upswing.
thanks. I
Yeah,
appreciate
awesome.
it. I appreciate the support and the opportunity. So hopefully we'll do this again in a year, and I'll be like, well, we didn't make it, or we did, or whatever.
It's hard. You
But
know, I was talking, I don't know if you know Jack Carr. Jack Carr is a guy that's got a podcast called Jacquisitions. And
mhm,
yesterday I was talking with him and he's had 100% growth every year. And I think he said he was like at 3 or 4 million. I can't remember.
okay.
And he said, okay, so we aren't making our 8 million this year, but we're like at 7. So we'll take it. And we've decided going forward, it won't be 100%, it'll be 50%. So at some point, your numbers are going to get so big, you'll probably it probably won't be 100% growth.
I'm just happy to have a company and
Yeah.
happy to be recognized. And like I said with the post from yesterday, it really affected me because like I sent it to our team, I'm like, I'm so proud of you guys, not only working for a woman, but doing it visibly. Like there are some people that just wouldn't even apply.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to
Uh,
believe we're still like that we have that in our
freaking
society, but it does,
yes,
unfortunately. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So
It's weird.
anyway,
Anyway, well, hey, thanks for being on the show. You are absolutely an amazing person, amazing guest, and I love your story. So I do hope in the future you can come back and give us an update,
thank
and you're probably
you.
going to have a book or who knows what else is going on in your world.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So thank you. Yep.
Take care.
Welcome to Profit and Grit. Failed, it's profit and grit, not luck and a wish. From the wrench to the spreadsheet, we're stacking our chips. Slow season hits, man, we tighten the ship. It's the blue collar way we build, not dip.